yours. What they never told you is that this is not a fable about external transformation. It's a ritual about discovering your true nature. Remember the previous video about Little Red Riding Hood? If you don't remember, go back and watch it again. Now this story is a map to get out of the false identity that was imposed on you, and a journey back home. Not to something new. No, but back to who you always were. The moral you were taught. Don't judge by appearance. Everyone can change and is a half-truth that hides real pain. The brutal truth, the truth that cuts, that hurts, is much deeper. Sometimes you don't need to change. You need to discover yourself. Sometimes the problem isn't who you are, it's where you are. Sometimes you're not defective, you're just in the wrong environment, one that doesn't allow you to be yourself. One of the aphorisms, one of the maxims written in the Temple of Dephos, in another video I will talk about it, is written, "Know thyself." And today we will explore every layer of this painful and liberating discovery, and we will discover ourselves. The story begins with a mother duck hatching eggs. But one of them is different, bigger, heavier. It takes longer to hatch. Look beyond the words. See the devastating symbolism. This egg is different. Perhaps it's one of us. The child born into an environment where it doesn't fit in. From the womb, it carried a different energy, an essence that doesn't fit with the odd surrounding system. Do you recognize this? Do you recognize the feeling of being born and not being understood? Of living in the wrong place? Of looking around and thinking, how did I get here? Why am I so different? This is the first existential wound. The primordial wound, to be born a swan in a brood of ducks. Or as another story goes, being born an eagle and living in a chicken coop. Being born with a big, giant soul, in an environment of small ambitions and perspectives, born to fly in, a house that only knows how to swim in circles. The duckling is born, and immediately everyone sees. He is different. What a strange creature, say the other ducks. He doesn't look like us. But look deeper. Look much deeper. The mother duck doesn't defend him. She's also ashamed. She also wants him to be normal. She'd also prefer him to be like everyone else. How many mothers do this? How many parents look at their unique, sensitive, different children and feel shame? How many families try to mold swans into ducks because it's easier that way? And the duckling, still a baby, already learns its first toxic lesson. Being different is wrong. Being yourself causes problems. To be loved, you have to pretend to be someone you're not. The mother duck tries to integrate the duckling into the family. Try to swim better. Try to quack like your brothers. Try to be more normal. Do you see the tragedy? Does the system understand the issue? It is not integration, but standardization. It is not recognized individuality, but becoming more of the same. She's not trying to understand who he is. She's trying to make him pretend to be someone he's not. Love already comes. It is born with conditions. I love you, if you're like us. I accept you, if you don't embarrass us. You're part of the family, if you stop being so weird. And the duckling, desperate to belong, begins to try. Tries to swim like the others, but his paws are too big. Tries to quack, like the others, but his voice is different. Try to be small, but your soul is immense. It's a miserable, tiring, frustrating effort. Do you recognize this exhausting effort? This desperate attempt to fit into a family that was never yours? This constant self-betrayal to gain crumbs of approval? The duckling goes out into the world and finds more of the same. The other ducks reject him. The geese despise him. The cats ignore him. The chickens peck at it. Everyone has the same reaction. You don't belong here, and you know it, and that's the cruelest thing. They're right. He really doesn't belong there, but not because it is defective, and yes, because it is of a different nature. It's like Einstein in a room of illiterates, Frida Kahlo, who painted her pain, Van Gogh, who saw everything differently like an artist in a factory, like a mystic in a skeptical, bureaucratic environment. The world is saying, get out of here, not because it is inferior, but because it is too different, too big, too complex. Rejected by everyone, the duckling runs away, hides in a swamp, lives alone. He almost dies of cold, hunger, and loneliness. And here is the most important moment in the story. The moment you stop trying to be accepted. The moment when the pain of rejection becomes so intense that you prefer solitude. The moment you choose to be rejected, but in honesty with yourself. You choose to be authentic and alone, rather than accepting being fake, false. But wait, there's something deeper going on in this swamp. In solitude, far from judgment, far from the pressure to be normal, something inside him begins to awaken. Something that was always there but was stifled by the need to belong. Because everything that is inside is outside, everything that is outside is inside. Winter is coming. The duckling almost dies, frozen, hungry, abandoned. But look beyond the suffering. Consider the psychological metaphor. Winter is the dark night of the soul. It's the time when you die to who you thought you were meant to be. Where all false identities freeze and die. It's in the cold that he stops trying to be a duck. It is in hunger that he stops seeking external approval. It is in solitude that he finally finds himself again. It is in silence that he feels enough space to hear his own inner voice. And in that silence, something extraordinary happens. It grows. Not just physically, psychologically, spiritually. He matures into his true nature. Spring is coming. The duckling, now bigger, comes out of its hiding place, see your reflection in the water, and doesn't recognize who's looking back. He didn't turn into a swan. He was always a swan. The difference is that now he can see. Now he can accept. Now he can stop pretending to be a duck. Do you see the psychological revolution? There was no magical transformation. There was revelation. There was no external change. There was internal acceptance. There was no improvement. There was a discovery. He sees a group of swans, and for the first time in his life, he feels a different fear. Not fear of rejection, no, but fear of acceptance. Because if they accept him, it means that everything he went through, all the pain, all the loneliness, all the self-betrayal, was for nothing. Wasted because he didn't know who he was. He approaches, expecting more humiliation. But the swans do not reject him. They recognize him. Where were you? What a beautiful feather. We are of the same species. And there the miracle of true belonging happens. Not a belonging based on pretending to be someone you are not, but based on being exactly who you've always been. The duckling looks at the swans. Then he looks at himself. And for the first time he understands. He was never an ugly duckling. He was always a young swan. The ugliness was never his. It was the place, the environment where he was. Inadequacy was never his nature. It was his group. How many years did you spend thinking the problem was you? How many decades trying to fix something that was never broken? How many therapies trying to adapt to places you should never be? This is the story they kept from you. Not because it's dangerous to you, but because it questions the very structure of the environment that our society considers sacred and untouchable. This story reveals truths that many don't want you to know. Not every biological family is your real family. A sacred text says that there are friends who stick closer than brothers. Sometimes you just need to get out, just look around to find where you belong. Sometimes the problem isn't you, it's where you are. Sometimes different doesn't mean defective. It can mean destined to soar. Your true family is made up of people who recognize your essence and not who try to change it to accept you. And you, when you look in the mirror, see a duck trying to be better? Or do you see a swan pretending to be a duck? What group or environment is making you feel inadequate? What work environments are making you question your worth? What relationships are convincing you that you are too much or not enough? How many places are you trying to swim when you were born to fly? In how many situations are you quacking when your natural voice is a sing? And the most painful question, how long have you been trying to fix something in yourself that was never broken? If this story touched an old wound in you, then you already know. You already know that you don't need any more advice books to fix yourself. You need courage to leave the wrong place. You don't need any more techniques to fit in. You need to find where you naturally belong. You don't have to change who you are. You need the exact opposite. Stop hiding who you are. It's time to stop trying to be a duck. The time has come to spread your wings. It's time to fly home. Share this story, not because I ask you to, but because other swans are lost in duckling broods, thinking they're defective when in fact they're just in the wrong place. Subscribe to this channel. Activate the bell, because we'll continue to debunk the lies that made you believe you're the problem. And most importantly, always remember, you are not an ugly duckling. You were never that. You are a swan that has not yet discovered its wings. You are a swan in the wrong place. You are a swan trying to live a duck's life. And at any moment, at any time, you can choose to fly. Your real family is waiting. Not the family that shares your DNA. The family that recognizes who you are, your essence. The family that celebrates its differences instead of trying to fix them. The family where you don't have to pretend to be smaller, to fit in, to not be embarrassed. If you've made it this far, you're already flying. Go back to the beginning of this story and see with eyes, even with tears if necessary, but look with the eyes of a swan. You've heard this story before. A different egg, a rejected duckling, loneliness, suffering, and the discovery that he was always a swan. But now you know, that's just the shell. The real story is about you, about your journey out of false identity, about his search for true family, about your flight home. And she's just getting started. Welcome to Swan Lake. Welcome to your true nature. Welcome home. The real story never ends. She just finds where she always belonged. Like you.